My name is Darren, and I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm 40 years old, and I've held a fascination with the occult since an early age. I have had many bizarre experiences with Ouija boards, and I'm writing this as a warning to people that bad things can happen because of these portals. Parker Brothers don't care if a demon possesses you, or if you come under some type of attack from something you know nothing about. The majority of people from the United States hold a skeptical view regarding the scientific evidence of spirits or ghosts, and many people who believe in these things also believe that it's for this very reason that ghosts and poltergeists occur here and exist under the radar, so to speak. These Ouija boards are manufactured under the precept that they are mere toys. Let me tell you firsthand, these are not toys and should be used with strict caution and probably shouldn't be messed with at all. Other countries take a more open-minded view of spirits, demons and ghosts, and many cultures have based entire religions from these beliefs. During my experiences with Ouija boards, one particular spirit always seemed compelled to make its presence known. Its name is Zozo. Today I refuse to even pronounce its name, as I believe the mere pronunciation of it can cause it to manifest itself. Too many times to count, it at first pretended to be a nice spirit, or pretended to be whomever I was trying to contact. But eventually, it showed its true self, cussing me, threatening me and others present in the room. Once it actually cussed me using what looked like Latin or Hebrew and using biblical terminology. I was genuinely fascinated and startled by how many times Zozo turned up, even in many different states and many different Ouija boards. It always wound up being very nasty and commented freely about how it wanted to possess my girlfriends and take them to paradise. When asked where paradise was, it spelled H-E-L-L. One time, after Zozo was being extremely evil, I walked into my bathroom only to see my 1-year-old daughter about to drown. Her mother had left her alone in the tub for just a second, and somehow the water got turned on and was overflowing. Instinctively, she had her face tilted up and was seconds from going under when I grabbed her from the water. The next day, she was hospitalised for some weird internal infection and was put in isolation for 14 days as doctors tried to diagnose the illness. We almost lost her, and that was when I began to suspect a demonic attack. At this same time, my girlfriend maintained a trance-like state. Her personality changed from a very sweet person to withdrawn and uncaring. Zozo said before this that it was going to possess her and eat her soul. I was recording music for a future rock project, and I remember jokingly asking it if it had an opinion on what I should name the band. It spelled Iron Tongue, which at the time I thought was pretty cool. Only later, when my daughter's tongue swelled up in the hospital to the point of asphyxiation, I realised this wasn't cool at all. Her tongue became rock hard and distorted her face, swelling up to where it hung grotesquely from her mouth. We took turns bedside at the hospital for what seemed like forever before my daughter began to recover from this strange affliction. When guests would spend the night in our house, they would claim that they heard frightening voices coming from inside the walls. Objects would be thrown across the room. Spiders seemed to come from nowhere. My girlfriend's brother, who lived with us, complained he couldn't sleep at night because the conversations were so loud he simply could not rest. He believed in ghosts, and though he wasn't afraid of them, he said it definitely felt demonic. Lights would come off and on by themselves. Doors would open and lock themselves. One night in our bedroom, a vicious laughter emanated from thin air, and to this day, I cannot explain the terror in that laughter. One night I was awakened by what felt like hands on my throat, choking me. I could not breathe. I couldn't scream. After about 30 seconds, it released its grip, and I gasped for air. The same thing happened to my girlfriend the next night. Another night, me and her brother were just standing outside the back porch sliding glass door when we were talking about a supposed curse of their family. I abruptly exclaimed, "I rebuke this curse in the name of Jesus Christ." I no longer finished saying those exact words when a deafening sound and vibration struck the entire house with such an alarming boom that the neighbours came over to ask if I'd heard something strange. I knew it wasn't in our imaginations. I got out the ladder to see what had landed on top of the house, only to find nothing. Things settled down after that, and to this day I believe that whatever made this noise also caused the disturbance to go away for a while. My girlfriend broke up with me, and I met someone online in Michigan, where I moved up to be with her. She didn't believe in spirits, and although I knew better, I decided to make her a believer as well. Living in a very small town in Marshall, Michigan, there were no stores that sold Ouija boards, so I downloaded one from the internet. I printed it out, and to my horror, Zozo returned. It said it came from cyberspace, and when I asked it where it lived, it spelled skull necklace. We didn't think much of this until I asked it again where it was, this time spelling mirror. There was only one mirror in the bedroom where we were crouched on the floor. I heard a scream coming from her 7-year-old niece who was watching us with another young friend. We looked up at the mirror and saw the skull necklace swaying back and forth with glowing eyes looking down at us. My new girlfriend's son had hung the necklace on one of the posts on the waterbed hours before I downloaded the paper board. We almost jumped out of our skin, and although 3 feet of fresh snow had fallen that night, we all found ourselves in the front yard not knowing what to do, scared shitless and frozen in terror. My girlfriend was so fascinated she drove 40 miles to purchase a new glow-in-the-dark Ouija board, much to my dismay. The next night we had another session in the same room. Zozo immediately came forth, even without me being a participant. My girlfriend's nieces were using the planchette, and I would secretly write down a colour onto a small piece of paper. Then I'd crumple it up where no one could see. I asked the young girls to ask the board if it knew which colour I'd written down. It quickly scooted to, yes, blue. I remember chills coursing up and down my spine as I threw the wadded up paper to my girlfriend. Her eyes widened as she read the written colour, blue. We then tried the same thing with shapes and words, and every time the board knew. One night we asked the Ouija board if the spirit would show itself. It spelled yes, and told me to turn out the lights and take a picture of the necklace above the board. I did just that, and what turned out is eerie to say the least. I have seen at least 4 evil faces. I took this picture about 6 years ago. People have stolen it off paranormal websites claiming they took it, when I truthfully know it was me. I have sent this picture to several experts, and they have all said they cannot explain the images inside. As if all of this wasn't strange enough, now comes the really scary part. A few months ago, I googled the word Zozo. To my shock, many other people have also been contacted by a demon of the same name. I read about 20 similar stories, and I'm now convinced that this simply cannot be mere coincidence. Supposedly, he is an ancient demon name which possibly stands for the Destroyer. Claims of demonic possession are associated with this Zozo, and I feel it my duty to warn people to steer clear from this if it happens to present itself during a Ouija board session. I'm currently researching these phenomena for a future book, and I am in the initial stages of presenting my findings to a reputable demonologist who have been involved in hundreds of cases of paranormal activities across the world, including a haunting in Connecticut. What is this Zozo? Supposedly, the three-headed dog demon which guards the gates of hell has a tattoo on its forehead that spells Zoso. Although Zozo is a term Crowley claimed meant 666, Jimmy Page of the rock group Led Zeppelin also uses Zoso as a symbol on the Zeppelin 4 album. Could Zozo and Zoso be connected somehow? How can so many different people from so many different parts of the world somehow lie about this spirit? And if they aren't lying, then how can you explain these visitations by this wicked entity? Is Zozo the devil himself? Or a wayward demon who has the power to manifest itself wherever and whenever it's called? Heed my warnings, people. If you're playing around with a Ouija board and you jokingly ask if it has a name and it spells Zozo, close the session properly. Cleanse the house. Never, I repeat, never ask it again. And if you're brave enough to carry on conversations with this spirit, do not antagonize it or act on its directions. I know what I've seen, and I know other people have come into contact with this spirit. It is dangerous beyond words. I realise not every session results in negativity, but when you play with this Zozo, you are playing with fire. Everything I've described here is true, and I'm not exaggerating one bit. It may take me years, but I do intend on writing a book about this, as I have many more stories that I do not have time to mention. They all stem from true events that took place while talking to this Zozo. I've been told by people wiser than myself that the spirit world is more real than this world of so-called reality. Ouija boards can cause many bad things to happen in your life. I'm including the Ouija ghost picture within this submission. Maintain an open mind, and most of all, be careful.